So good morning, everyone. My name is Kieran McManus. I'm a member of the Brazilian American Chamber of Commerce and partner in PwC here in Sao Paulo. On behalf of the Chamber, I welcome you and thank you for joining us. For the first time in history, Brazil is initiating research in specific fields of healthcare and science and has partnered with laboratories in the United States to finance brain cancer research through the Meduloblasta Initiative, the MBI, founded in 2021 by the Brazilian Fernando Goldstein. The MBI has been established as an unprecedented partnership between laboratories and institutions in Brazil and the United States to operationalize funding for world-class blastoma research, with every dollar being raised directly being invested in finding a cure. Today, the Chamber has united a group of medical experts, scientists, and business leaders for our webinar, a novel approach, Brazil-US partnerships in health, science, and human medicine. The program is the first in a series of Chamber events focusing on Brazil-US health science partnerships, and will feature MBI founder Fernando Goldstein. Mr. Goldstein, a father and businessman from Rio Grande do Sul, will share how he created MBI and his mission to fund pediatric cancer research. One of Brazil's most successful entrepreneurs, chairman of the board of Ivora and director of Instituto Ling, William Ling, will share his insights into one of MBI's first supporters, and in career diplomat and head of the Consulate General of Brazil in Asunción, Paraguay, and former permanent representative of Brazil to the Organization of American States, Ambassador Otávio Brandelli, will impart his experience in building international awareness for MBI, combining science with an unparalleled business model that focuses on results and will change the future of humanity. The panel will be rounded off by Dr. Roger Packer, who the Gilbert Distinguished Professor of Neurofibromatosis, who serves as director of both the Gilbert Neurofibromatosis Institute and the Brain Tumor Institute of the Children's National Hospital. Dr. Packer is the lead investigator from a consortium of 13 laboratories funded by MBI, and will share how this group is advancing in preparations to submit clinical trials to the US and Drug Administration in 2024. These presentations will be followed by an interactive Q&A session, and I encourage you to contribute with your questions and comments. I can remind you this event is being recorded, and in entering the space, you consent to video recording and its release. And then with that, I think I'll already pass it over to Fernando Goldstein, who will tell us about his experience and MBI. So Fernando, it's over to you.
Thank you, Kieran, very much for the introduction. I'm very pleased to be here, and I'm very thankful to the Brazilian American Chamber of Commerce for the opportunity to be here. And I'd like today to present you the Medulloblastoma Initiative. What is our mission? What is our goals? Sorry,
Fernando. Sorry, I just saw that Simone has joined us. Sorry, Simone, would you like to make some opening remarks?
First of all, I want to apologize. I had some technical issues to connect, and I was a little late. I was supposed to do the opening remarks, but I couldn't be more happier than today to make sure that the Chamber is engaged on something completely different that we never done before, that is really to support an initiative that started in Brazil, the MBI, as Fernando will explain, to fight pediatric cancer. And I think this initiative is something that is very innovative in its essence, because it's coming with funding from Brazil to different labs and different institutions in US. And I think it will eventually bring the trial not only to US, but to Brazil as well. And I would like to thank Dr. Roger Packer to be part of it, and also Mr. Ling, who is a long-standing friend from the chamber, and I think a supporter of Fernando, and you to organize everything, Kieran. So I'm sorry again for this delay, but thank you very much to have everybody together. And I think this will be an excellent start of a series of events that we want to discuss and promote to see how much more we can do in helping these initiatives. Thank you very much. I think you are on mute.
Sorry. Thank you very much, Simone. And sorry, Fernando, back over to you.
Okay, thank you, Kieran. Thank you, Simone, for the kind words. And thank you again for the opportunity to be here today. I'd like to explain you about the medulloblastoma initiative. So we'll start with my personal history, why I am involved with this, and then what have you done so far in these 2.5 years that we have the NBI. So the main question is, can we offer hope to children with deadly brain tumors? We think we can, and that's why we are doing this. So there has been great progress in science in the last decades, but unfortunately that's not the reality for some pediatric brain tumors. So our mission is to try to change that picture. So this is how life is supposed to be. I chose this nice picture because this is how, besides we have our day-to-day problems and challenges, we don't really have big problems as cancer. So this is more or less our lives. In 2004, I had cancer myself, so I am a cancer survivor. So I had this problem in 2004 in my heel. I have a chondrosarcoma, and thanks God and the very good doctors, I'm here today, 20 years later. So in 2015, it was my second encounter with cancer, and it was much worse than the cancer the cancer I have myself, because it happened with my son, and it was 1,000 times worse. And medulloblastoma is a disease typically that happens to kids, and that is very devastating, because kids are not supposed to have cancer. They have the whole life ahead of them, right? And it was a very difficult time for us. In 2019, 4 years later, even though we had the resources to give to my son the best treatment possible, this type of cancer relapses in more or less 30% of the kids, and that then happened with Federico. So and when that happens, there is no protocol, there is no treatment, nothing. So 30% of the kids that are not cured in the first treatment, they don't have any other option. So majority of them are going to perish.
Yeah, Fernando, I know that here you're just showing images of the boat, and I'm guessing that the way that you were feeling at this stage, you know, I can just imagine how you were feeling as a father, you know, and having gone through cancer yourself, and knowing about these implications without anyone to help. You know, how, I guess, how you must have been feeling in terms of you know, without I guess help and without the structure and a hope, like a lifeboat to come and save you.
Yeah, it's impossible to put in words the feeling of a father hearing from a doctor that there is no treatment for your son. It's impossible to put in a word, and it's impossible to imagine who never went through this. So it was very, very desperate situation. And as you can see, and I chose this word that kids with brain tumors were left behind because the treatment for medulloblastoma that is there today, the treatment is 35 or more than 30 years old. So when the treatment for medulloblastoma was created, and one of the persons who created this protocol was Dr. Packer, that is here with us back then. So the treatment was created when we were using this kind of technologies. And 30% of the kids, as I mentioned before, they are not cured and they are going to die. And 70% of the kids, they are going to have severe lifelong collateral effects like growing problems, cognitive problems, or even secondary tumors. So there is a problem about how society is dealing with this kind of rare diseases. And it's 30,000 of kids every year in the world that have medulloblastoma. And you can imagine 35 years with the same protocol, it's not acceptable. So that's in the front. This is the picture of my son, Federico, and thousands of kids around the world, as I mentioned, perish because of this disease. And in these 8 years that I have been through this battle, I met lots of people, lots of family, lots of kids, and many of them, lots of doctors, and many of them today are our allies in this battle. And our most important ally is Dr. Packer, who is really the person who envisioned this project. So everything is created by Dr. Packer. We are just trying to fund his vision. And one thing that is very important, when I spoke to Dr. Packer about this situation, this sad picture that the brain tumor research is not evolving in decades, I decided to make a donation, and that Dr. Packer had this vision of making or creating a consortium of 4 or 5 labs in the beginning. And then I made a donation of $3 million, which is, in one hand, $3 million is a lot of money, but in another hand, I didn't think that $3 million would make a big impact that Dr. Packer could do starting this, that Dr. Packer did starting this consortium. I was very impressed with he was able to create, and then I decided to do something else, and then I created the medulloblastoma initiative, exactly to give or to fund, to be able to fund with more resources, more money, this project. And the video that I'm going to that I'm going to show now tells the story about MDI. So we are going to play a video now. %30 of the kids who have medulloblastoma, they don't survive, and there's no cure yet. So we decided to do an initiative that we call Medulloblastoma Initiative to change that. In 2015, my son got cancer, and it's very, very tough to see a kid suffering. He's a very smart guy. He likes to travel very much. He likes to read. He loves school as well. Federico has been a warrior, and I decided that fighting the pediatric brain tumor will be the goal of my life from now on.
Philanthropy is so critical for us. We wouldn't be able to move in many different ways. We wouldn't be able to move as innovatively, and we wouldn't be able to move as quickly. And the longer we delay, the more children get hurt or are put at risk of losing their lives or the qualities of lives because we don't have answers for them.
There is a quote in the Talmud that says, "Whoever saves a life saves the entire world." Okay, this video gives an idea about MBI, and I'm going to now explain a little bit how our ecosystem works. We have in green, we have the Meduloblastoma Initiative, which is a team of people in Brazil that is making the fundraising and the awareness raising about the initiative. Then the children's, all the money we collect, we send to Children's National, where Dr. Packer is, and who is doing all the scientific coordination among the 13 institutions that are working in the science for our project. And then in black is the consortium itself, with these 13 labs. It's 10 in the US, 2 in Canada, and 1 in Germany. And it's important to say that we actually, I'm going to speak about that a little in the following slides. So this is our ecosystem. So this is our team in Brazil. It's a very tiny team that is working in fundraising. Then we have the Children's National Hospital that are giving us the operational support and helping us in the fundraising and the scientific coordination. And then we have these institutions that are involved in the research. And it's important to say that we have in our project the top ranked scientists in the planet in this field of brain tumors. So we have the number 1, the number 2, the number 4 scientists. It's a really dream team that Dr. Packer was able to assemble or to make work together. So these scientists are not competing; they are working together and synergically to find the cure as soon as possible. So what makes our project unique? I'm going to explain, because I have learned in these 2 years and a half that I am involved in this field, and I think I can say that MBI is really a unique project. Maybe there is no project like this in the world. It's very different. First of all is the flow of funds. So normally the developed countries send money to the undeveloped or countries that are not as rich. Normally the money comes from the north to the south, right? And in our case, so far the money is coming from Brazil to the US. So these are where the labs are located, as I mentioned: US, Canada, and Germany. So another thing that makes our project unique is the unprecedented partnership. It's an initiative that we're working together with the foundation, the Children's National Hospital Foundation, and joining efforts to raise the awareness and to find funds to fund the research. So this kind of partnership, it's not common in the US. We have a small cell of the NBI inside of Children's National Foundation. And by the way, the Children's National Hospital is one of the top 5 pediatric hospitals in the US. It's a very important institution. So another thing that makes us unique, that we are not funding something that was already there. So we Dr. Parker, but I would say, I will allow myself to say we. So we created this consortium, and we are funding this consortium. So we are not funding for something that was already there. So it was created by our initiative or our idea with Dr. Parker. So this is also unique. Another thing that is very important is that we have a specific target. There are lots of initiatives out there that are collecting money for cancer, for pediatric cancer. We are specifically raising or targeting one disease, medulloblastoma. And even though we are even more focused, because there are, as I said, there are other institutions or other foundations out there that collect money for specific disease, but they do in another way. They give scattered grants. The scientists apply for their grants, and they give scattered grants. And at the end of the day, they did a very nice job, but actually maybe they didn't find the cure, because they give one grant here, one grant there, and we don't. We fund only these 13 labs, so we are very, very focused. And for me, that's why we are being able to make such an amazing progress in 2.5 years. So the results after 2 years, we were able to raise almost $10 million. So we have been receiving lots of awareness in the Brazilian media, not yet in the US, but we are starting to expose ourselves in the US. So and this webinar, it's one step, because we need to have more awareness there. So that's one presentation I was able to do at MIT. I am an MIT alumni, and our project was chosen among many other alumni cases, and we were able to present there. It was very, very nice. And even we had an article from the MIT website about our project. So, of course, the most important thing, the awareness is important, the money is important, but the most important thing is the science, is the progress of our research. I will leave this part to Dr. Parker, but we have 4, maybe 5 clinical trials in our pipeline, and 2 are going to be submitted to FDA in January. So the others are going to take a little bit longer, but that part I'm going to leave to Dr. Parker. And I will finish with our ultimate objective, just to make a wrap up of my presentation. So of course, save thousands of lives. As I mentioned, we're not focused only in the kids who die, but in the kids that are submitted to this radiation and very toxic chemotherapy. So if we find a better treatment, we are going to avoid these lifelong collateral effects to these kids. Raise awareness about the lack of research, and maybe we are going to help other diseases that are not being funded as medulloblastoma. And one thing that I think is very important, it's a benchmark for other families who could do the same and maybe make a difference fighting other diseases. So I finish with this quote from Talmud, and I thank you very much for your attention.
Yeah, thank you very much for that, Fernando. And maybe we could pass over to William Ling for some comments on as a sponsor as to I guess what his experience has been being involved in this initiative.
Well, I think after watching and listening Fernando's presentation, it's impossible not to be touched, right, by this problem, and so I will give you some background about my family, how we got involved in this project, and the merits, right, that I see in Fernando's work. So just to give you some background, my parents they immigrated from China in the early 1950s, fleeing the communist revolution, and settled in the southernmost state of Brazil, Rio Grande do Sul, where Fernando and I live. They had little money, no family, no relatives, no friends in Brazil to support them. They couldn't speak Portuguese, and they had to rely on the hospitality and on the generosity of the Brazilian people. My father became a serial entrepreneur, was one of the pioneers in the soybean culture and soybean industry in Brazil. Over 7 decades, we were able to build a solid family enterprise with global reach. We have manufacturing facilities in 14 countries, including plants in 5 US states. We are also present in Germany. So we became an international family. We have very close ties with the US. I have today 4 members of the 3rd generation of the family live in the US. I myself spent some time in California studying at Stanford. My brother, my brothers, my son, my niece. So we have very strong ties with the US, and but our family is a Brazilian-based family, and my parents, they always recognized that they wouldn't be able to prosper without the support of the Brazilians, and they always had the desire to give back. So in 1995, we established the family philanthropy. We called it the Ling Institute, the Instituto Ling. Its original purpose was to grant scholarships to promising Brazilian students to do graduate studies abroad on a need and on a merit basis. So far, we have more than 450, almost 500 fellows admitted, mostly to the top US universities, such as Harvard, Stanford, Columbia, MIT, and the likes. We also have other domestic programs that benefited more than 1,000 of less privileged youngsters in Brazil. In 2011, we partnered with the Brazilian American Chamber of Commerce in New York to launch the Person of the Year Fellowship Program. And we are very proud to be part of and contribute to the Chamber's effort to strengthen the relationship between Brazil and the US through education. In 2014, we opened a cultural center in our hometown, Porto Alegre. This cultural center became one of the top places to visit here. We offer a wide variety of cultural activities such as music, theater, visual arts, culinary, as well as continuous studies courses. And we are also supporters of the two main hospitals in our state. I am one of the 18 members of the association that acts as the trustee of one of Brazil's top hospitals, the Moinhos de Vento Hospital, a Johns Hopkins Medicine International affiliate. And my awareness of the hospital's needs helped me to convince my family to sponsor the cancer center at this hospital, which was named after my mother. We also established the program with Moinhos de Vento Hospital Health Science Education Center to give 200 full scholarships for nurses. In addition, we recently delivered the newest state-of-the-art intensive care unit in the state's largest hospital complex that caters to patients of the public healthcare system. And my family's commitment with the fight against cancer comes from a long time. My mother will turn 95 weeks from now, and she's still an active volunteer of the Women's Cancer Fighting League in our state, and has chaired this nonprofit for more than 3 decades. Since my siblings and I were teenagers, we participated in fundraising activities for this charity, and my family has been the major sponsor of it. We also had many cancer incidents within our family. My sister's twin son survived a rare and very aggressive type of leukemia. The doctors gave him 5% chance of survival, but he was fortunately successfully treated in Providence, Rhode Island, and was able to graduate from Brown University. And his ordeal traumatized the whole family and prompted us to go after good projects to support in this field. 3 years ago, my ex-wife had a kidney removed to treat a very aggressive tumor in the ureter. And also, fortunately, she's doing great. My sister-in-law also has a very tragic family story of many relatives lost to cancer, including her father. So when Fernando presented me the medulloblastima initiative, it wasn't difficult for me and my family to make the decision to join this effort. I've known Fernando and his family for decades. The Goldstein family is a very successful case in the real estate industry in our city. Is very active in helping our community. We are also supporters of Instituto Floresta, a NGO chaired by Fernando's brother Claudio, that does a superb job to improve public safety in our hometown. So I have no doubt that having Fernando leading NBI is a guarantee that the funds raised will be well invested, and they are being well invested. And I was very, very impressed since the beginning by the credentials of these many talented people that he was able to attract, and the support he was able to harness from these top research institutions in Canada, US, and Germany. This is unique. This is I've never seen a Brazilian individual being able to go so far as Fernando. So all these factors are reassurances that the technical and the governance requirements are in place, and the work will be carried out in the best possible way. The other reason we joined NBI is Fernando's passionate determination to find a cure for this disease. His commitment to the project is contagious and worthy of our support. Another aspect that was relevant in our decision making is worth mentioning is that in Brazil there are no incentives for such initiatives at all. It's extremely difficult to raise funds for research in Brazil. I empathize with Fernando's difficulties in raising funds in this context, and I do hope that my family's gesture resonates, and other supporters will follow our lead. And finally, as I mentioned already, I would point out that NBI is a rare case of cross-border cooperation led by a Brazilian citizen to find a solution that will impact the lives of uncountable children and families, and that we are very proud to be part of. So thank you for having me.
That's great, and I think, William, in your speech, I think it's pretty obvious in terms of the level of trust that you have in Fernando, and that his commitment to this, as you say, like, his commitment is contagious. I think even just like everyone that comes in contact with Fernando gets involved in this, and it's very, I guess, very moving story for everyone involved. And I guess with that, let's go to Ambassador Otávio Brandelli. Ambassador, are you with us here? Hopefully you can open your audio and video. Yep.
Yes, I'm with you. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, especially to Fernando, my new and best friend. I met Fernando in 2023 at the beginning of this year, after I participated in some charity activities in Washington in favor of the Children's National Hospital. And it, in a sense, it changed my life, the way I see things, and the kind of results that we can get through our work. I also see that I have two diplomat colleagues in the room, Igor Sobral, who worked with me when I was the chief of unity in the Foreign Office of Brazil, which deals with intellectual property. And I also see that Roberto Azevedo, Ambassador Roberto Azevedo, is in the room, and he was my boss at that time. Well, I will give you some of my background. I'm also come from Porto Alegre, the same city of Fernando and Mr. Ling. And I also come from an immigrant family. We are a family of Italians who came to Brazil and who produce good wine since my grandfather came to Brazil. We are dedicated to the activity of producing wine. But my father was not a wine producer, and he shifted to politics. He had a degree in philosophy, and he was a journalist. And I became a bureaucrat. And by becoming a bureaucrat, I lost this sense that we have in the private sector life of having results in the short term of our activity. I've been a career diplomat since 1991, and I got used to the long cycles of diplomacy. You will start a negotiation in the year, 2005, and you are going to have the result in 2030. And it's especially the case when you are dealing with patents, pharmaceutical patents, and access to health. All the cycles are very long. All the cycles are very long. I had the opportunity to be the president of the Brazilian PTO during the government of President Dilma, and I had the opportunity to be the deputy secretary of state of Brazil in the government of President Bolsonaro. I say that just to say that I'm a state agent. I'm not never worked for governments. I just worked for Brazil, and mainly I worked for the Brazilians in all of those 30 years that I am a diplomat. And the international negotiations, they always take long time to be concluded, and the results of the negotiations take a long time to be perceived as a public good for the society. It is especially the case when you are, one experience that I had, which was dealing with the better access to HIV treatments. It was a hard work because we had to make people understand that a fair and equitable system of patents was the best interest of society. And we had some different views in our relationship with countries like the United States. But with time, we could show that there is one interest, which is public health, that should prevail over trade and over commerce and over private interests. So this is my background. I was in Washington. I had 30 years of diplomacy, and then I met Fernando. And I had this experience as the president of the Brazilian PTO, which put me in contact with the best of science and the best of innovation, the best of technology. The PTO is the place where you have the new knowledge which has been patented. So I met Fernando, and in Washington, we started some activities of creating awareness of the initiative of the medulloblastoma initiative. And I and Fernando, we had meetings with the Secretary General of PAHO, the Pan American Health Organization. We had meetings with the president of the Inter-American Development Bank, which is the IDB. We had meetings with the Secretary General of the OAS, which is the Organization of the American States. We had meetings with all the embassies of the Americas, of the American countries. had meetings with ambassadors from Europe who are observers in the OAS, such as Italy, Spain, and I would mention the ambassador of the Holy See, the Vaticano. He was impressed with the initiative, and he made all the effort to communicate to the staff in the Vaticano, in the Holy See, who deals with public health. They manage many hospitals all over the world, and they were very, very impressed with the initiative. And there was an idea that I don't know if it is going to happen or not, to bring Fernando to present to the group of scientists of the Holy See, to present to the medulloblastoma initiative. So we, in a sense, had the opportunity to take advantage of the political position that Washington has in the world to convince people that something is important. Washington is still a capital, a political capital of the world, and we have this kind of resonance, I say resonance, of ideas. If something is happening in Washington, people will pay attention to that. And the things that I would mention about the initiative, which are very different from any other initiative that I participated or in any other kind of experience, is that it produces concrete results in short term. It's focused and it's novel. And Fernando had the ability to bring together the best of science to this initiative. The consortium that he managed to get together is really amazing. I think we have 14 research institutes working together. And it's unprecedented for me in my life. In all the 30 years of my career as a diplomat, I never had the opportunity to participate in something that's going to change humanity in the short term. So I just have to say thank you to Fernando. It was really one great experience to be there in Washington, working together for the well-being of children who suffer from the medulloblastoma. Thank you very much.
Yeah. And Otávio, maybe just one point here, because you mentioned that normally the projects that you're involved in, they take many years and they take a long time. And you mentioned that the difference in terms of speed. But maybe the other thing is that in these initiatives that take a long time, I imagine that you spend a lot of money on these. They spend a lot of money working on things, whereas on this one, you know, the money is being spent, probably maybe not as much money as on other longer term initiatives, but it's a little money is going very fast and going a long way. Like comparatively, so maybe like in terms of the return that's being got from the money being invested, it's a very high value return, if you like, because it's a lot of return for a very short, short and relatively small investment.
Yeah, and you know, in the public sector, you have to face situations which are shameful. When I was president of the PTO, the Brazilian PTO, we found that we had a situation because of the malfunction of the institute or the PTO. We were spending 9 billion reais a year on the payment of royalties of patents which were already in public domain in any other country. Well, it was because one paragraph in one article of the Brazilian patent law that it was happening. And it was amazing to see 9 billion reais, it would be $2 billion, more or less, a year that Brazil was spending on extended patents just in the public health. And it was the year 2013 and 14 when I was in the Brazilian PTO. And then I started talking about this question. And finally, again, long cycle. I started talking about that in 2013 and 14. And in 2021, 7-8 years after we started talking about that, the Brazilian Supreme Court decided that it was unconstitutional to pay and to have this extended patent system, which derived from the malfunction of the Brazilian PTO. So imagine what we could have done with $2 billion a year. We were talking about the Brazilian patent law was approved in 1996. So 30 years. We are talking about 40, 50 billions, which could have been invested in research development for the good of people.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Ambassador. And I guess with that, pass to Dr. Packer. Yeah, and maybe Doctor, in terms of in terms, maybe you can tell us a bit about your experience in terms of of how you were able to use it, as I guess as was the relatively little money that you had, and how you were able to coordinate the work and make such huge strides in the medical area.
Sure. Good morning. First of all, I really want to thank everyone who's made this call possible, the Brazilian American Chamber of Commerce, obviously the ambassador, Mr. Ling, for sharing his story and all the things that his family has done and the reasons they are doing and continuing to do such wonderful things. And obviously to Fernando for creating. We're in a hospital.
Code here on 622 NICU.
This will happen two more seconds.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay. Welcome to my world. By the way, I am a children's hospital, if there was any question in Washington, D.C. But I do want to thank again Fernando publicly for his passion and his vision making this possible. And I think we have very straightforward goals. When Fernando came to me, he wanted us to use the greatest science we could, but in a very focused way, to develop a cure for children with a form of medulloblastoma. And to backtrack just a second, of all childhood cancers, childhood brain tumors are the ones still with the worst outcomes and the highest side effects. Of all childhood brain tumors, and Fernando laid out the numbers internationally, the one most aggressive one and the one of the embryonal tumors, the most common, is medulloblastoma. We've made really great strides in management of medulloblastoma. Fernando talked about protocols we put together 3 decades ago, but the real incrimination for the field is we have not replaced those protocols with more effective ones, with more safe ones. And for subgroups of children with this disease that have a different biology, once the tumor comes back, there's almost 100% mortality rate within 3 years. So those are the odds we're fighting. So we have children who are losing their lives with therapies that are ineffective or only partially effective, and we have to change the paradigm. We have to change the approach. The normal scientific approach is, as I think some people on this call know from the comments, is the labs do their work. After a few years, the work funnels up to where it might be usable clinically. We do preclinical testing in animal models, another 3 to 4 years, develop the drugs, and then go into clinical trials. So the process can extend out 10 to 15 years. The question is, could we put together a consortium of laboratories that would not compete for dollars, but would work together for dollars, take their labs that were already sophisticated, working on other facets of childhood brain tumors, even other facets of medulloblastoma, and with the support, direct their efforts to group 4 medulloblastoma, especially those children who develop recurrence. And can we do parallel play? Can we do the research, the preclinical testing, and then within a finite period of time, not 5 years, not 10 years, not unfortunately 1 year, but in a 2-year or so period, could we deliver protocols that were different, approaches that were different, that would have a possibility of curing more children? And the currency of joining the consortium was you had to, the labs had to sign off on that vision. They may be labs that are used to 5 to 10-year plans. They were all well-funded labs nationally and internationally, but they've never had this kind of timeline to work with. And actually, it sort of energized the scientists, because this was something that could be finite, that they could move quickly from their lab to a clinical protocol, and they could see tangibly their work moving ahead. Now, the other thing we made very clear to all of the scientists involved is not everybody's lab work is going to move forward. It's wonderful lab work, but it may not be pertinent to get us to a cure or a new approach faster. So we're always pruning. The choice of these labs was a little bit arbitrary. I've been in the field a long time. What are the best labs? Not at my institution. We have some fine labs only, but what's the best lab nationally and internationally? That's why some of the major labs are not in the United States. They're in Canada, they're in Germany, because we knew we were getting a group of people who could work together, who would focus on the problem, that would use the best science to give us our best option. It may not be perfect, but it'll be our best option in 2 years to try to save more children. And then we would take the year after that to refine it, and the year after that to refine it. And we couldn't wait for perfection. You know, sometimes perfection is the greatest enemy of progress. We have to be very good. We have to be smart. We can't put children at risk, but we've got to make a difference for these children who desperately need the treatment, and we have to be scientifically driven. And the last thing is that we really did know that 2 of the areas that really were the greatest potentials were trying to harness the immune system that we all have, the ability to fight infections towards this disease, and also to harness what we understand about the molecular genetics of this disease, develop really what people call personalized medicine directly at the tumor type. We had to try to marry these things as quickly as possible by merging the efforts in all of those laboratories, by having tremendous crosstalk, that the labs talk to each other once a month. These are labs that often have been competitive in the past, working together to try to come up with this new approach. And I think that's a different model, and the model that's been quite successful. And the exciting thing is that we're pretty close to our timeline. Getting a new vaccine immunotherapy approach to the FDA in a 2.5-year period from idea from conception to delivery is pretty unheard of. and getting and hopefully now personalized therapies right after that is fairly unheard of. And are they going to be successful? God, we hope so. We want them to, but we've got to try, and we've got to do this in the best way possible. So that's my vision that Fernando gave to me, and that's what we're trying to deliver on.
And maybe just a follow-up question. I imagine the amount of work that you personally had to put in to make this happen, to contact all of these labs, to convince all of these labs, to leave what they were doing, and probably their focus, their business model is like, as you were commenting on, a 5-10 year model, and to convince so many people to refocus their efforts to focus on this particular type, this particular issue, and to focus on as a laser vision plan. I mean, and I'm just thinking about like what inspired you, what would that take, and what do you think it would take for leaders, medical leaders in other fields, for someone to come to them and to convince them? Because I'm sure it's not just about the money. There's something else behind this that makes you so committed to getting a cure.
Well, let's be honest, it's always partially about the money. Without the financial support, people can't take their labs and turn them over. They can't hire more people. They can't refocus their laboratories. These are people who are funded for other research. At the same time, it's a mixture of a few things. One, I guess over the years, because we did develop the protocols that have raised for some medulloblastoma subsets survival from about 40% to 80%, I had some credibility in the field. But more importantly, I had been in the field long enough to know what most labs were doing around the country. And if I didn't know, I knew ways to find out. So you'd be amazed how willing scientists are to rally around something if they believe there's going to be a tangible outcome. And they haven't gotten into this field just for the intellectual process. They want to help children. There are different ways to do cancer research that are clearly more lucrative. You can work for a drug company. You can work on a cancer that's much more common. Funding is much easier to obtain. So these people in the beginning had to have a passion for the work they're doing to try to fight brain tumors. And then it was sort of my job, and which was pretty easy, given both the funding and Fernando's passion, to try to convince them that, look, you guys have been working together for years. This is a way for all of us to work together on a very focused area. And your labs will not be financially hurt. They will be helped. You will help a generation of children, and you might develop a methodology that could be successful for a lot of other forms of childhood cancer and brain tumors if we can pull this off. And they all drank the Kool-Aid and agreed to work together. And I think, we have dropped a couple of labs over the time. This is not, altruism just for altruism. We want an outcome. And this was outcome-based research. And that's how people work together. And they knew there would be no frills. But they also knew, because of Fernando's passion and because of donors like Mr. Ling and others, that there were tangents that came off of that could really help other children, that there were things that we went in one direction, but we had to shift a little bit, that we were not rigid. We could shift a bit if it would get us to our goal quicker. And that's something that labs don't always have the luxury of having, because they're funded for one thing and one thing only. Now we're funded for one thing and one thing only, but we can change our methodologies a little bit quickly if it's going to get her there a little bit faster. That was enticing to people. My time, this is what I do for a living. I've been doing this for 40 years, taking care of children with brain tumors. This is an unparalleled opportunity. I've buried too many children. I've seen too many families torn apart. How can I turn and say, I don't have time for this effort. That would be sort of ridiculous. Then I should get out of the business.
Yeah, and I guess just on that note, we have a question here from Ron Chester asking, do you have any major pharmaceutical company as partner to help accelerate the next step, such as clinical development?
No, I think that's a great question. And pharmaceutical companies can be very difficult to move. But in my experience, bringing quite a few drugs to clinical work, if you can give them a real reason, not only financial, but in many cases, especially for orphan diseases like medulloblastoma, to make a real difference, they will jump aboard. The present therapies that we are looking at, the immunotherapies, are really not made by pharmaceutical companies. They're made by university consortiums that have manufacturing facilities. We have one in Washington, D.C. We're working with one, the largest immunotherapy program, probably for brain tumors in the world, out of the group at the University of Florida, Dr. Mitchell. So we have areas that could manufacture. As we get into more personalized therapies, I'm sure we are going to have to work with drug companies, but they have a stable of drugs that are potentially available if we can show the rationale of why it would be critical to use them. So we often think of the pharmaceutical companies as an evil, and sometimes they're a necessary evil, but at other times they can be your ally if you work with them creatively. So at this point, the studies are coming from for immunotherapy, but as you get into personalized therapy, I am sure we're going to have to rely on the credibility we built over decades with different pharmaceutical houses to try to get them to give us a drug or allow us to use their drug for these diseases. So not at the moment, but I don't think that's going to be the rate limiter for this. We have too many people who they are dependent on to take their drugs to testing that may want to work together to get them to give us a drug if we need it.
And maybe another question, think of other medical leaders and in other areas, for someone to come, I guess, what sort of approach do you think would be successful in coming to them to motivate them to create the sort of a structure for a cure or something similar to what you're doing?
Well, I think, I think one of the things that's really important is that we have a shared vision and we don't pretend. I don't promise anything to a family who comes to me once that I can't deliver. And Fernando knows multiple times he's come to me, if I give you more money, can it go any faster? And I've said multiple times, I don't want more money. I just want to use the money you gave me smarter. And I want to keep motivating my team because I'm not smart enough to do this myself in any way. I need the great labs in Canada and Germany, and they're not going to get motivated by throwing money at them that they can't really use at the given time. I think you want to motivate people, have a shared vision that's realistic. Don't lie to those people who want to give you money, but try to stretch as a physician or a clinical leader of what can you do to be more successful. So I think honesty and trust is what you have to build first. You have to be clear between the family and yourself. What is the vision? And then you honestly have to say, can you meet that vision? And if you can't, you shouldn't take the money. And at the same time, you have to be honest that it's going to take certain resources. It just doesn't happen because you want to ask nice. So what I've, over many years, this partnership between academia, industry, philanthropy, done correctly, it's sort of seamless. You can really do a lot. But again, you just can't worry about overhead and bureaucracy unless you want to do 10 years, 15 years of trials. And some of us have lost patience for those.
And Do you think that what happened during COVID and the fact that everyone was focused on a cure, that's maybe changed as well the mindset in terms of the potential timelines to seek cures?
I think COVID was a blip, but it did change things. It made some of us figure out how we were going to survive, how we were going to maintain our international relationships, what was important to us, what wasn't important to us. So there were changes because of COVID. Right now, because of all of the international meetings, we used to get together, probably waste a lot of time getting together in large meetings 3, 4, 5 times a year. Now, for better or for worse, we've got to figure out a way, how do we get together and not look at our iPads at the same time, and actually look at each other and work with each other. So the way we work is different, but of course the world is moving on. Fernando showed when we created our first protocols in the 1980s that raised the survival rates. I had some of those VHS tapes and things like that. I still probably have them, but the world moves on, and we have to move with it. So in some ways, things have been easier. There's some barriers that were broken down during COVID of being able to share things, do things electronically, where the barriers keep trying to be brought back again on the idea of security and safety. And we've got to always be cautious that we don't paralyze ourselves, becoming too siloed again. So it's a different world, but I don't know if it's fundamentally changed the science. I think the motivation was there pre-COVID and post-COVID.
Thank you very much for the packet. And then we have that question here from Marcel Naimi, I think for Fernando William. Hi, on the clinical trial question, is the hospital in Brazil, Moinho de Vento or others, also possibly involved in clinical trials for this tech or other innovations?
Is that to me?
No, well, I guess.
Yeah, because I'm happy to answer it.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, the idea of any of these therapies, especially now in the world which we live, they're international therapies. There are some levels of sophistication that can't be duplicated, but we have people on our work committee on this consortium that are from Brazil. We have advisors, but we also have hospitals. I do probably 20 consultations a year, second opinions for folks from Brazil. And other South American countries. We have a rare brain tumor initiative, which is really South America based. And we're not the only ones. So we expect that our colleagues in Brazil will benefit from this. And the same clinical trial that we open ultimately will be open in Brazil and available for patients. It's a real shame if families have to travel very long distances if we can deliver the therapy safely. It may not be for the first couple because we have to get out the safety, but ultimately the long term is to involve them, and they are involved in this consortium. That arrow of money may be going one way, but the arrow of care is going back to all of those different places.
Okay, I think with that, I don't think we have any other questions. Maybe I'll just ask everyone for their final comments, and maybe just starting with Fernando, maybe in terms of what any final comments and I guess what in terms of the initiative and how it could go forward and how other similar initiatives could spread out of this.
Yes, actually, I would never imagine 2 years and a half ago when we started, and when I and Dr. Packer started talking about what could be done if I made a donation, what could be done to maybe try to speed up science towards the cure of this disease. So I would never imagine that 2 years and a half we would be in this position with the clinical trials around the corner. So it's amazing. But I mean, we have to keep going because we might not hit the target in the first trial. We have, as Dr. Parker said, or we might hit the target, but we have to improve and improve. So the challenge is still there. And my goal is it's raising money for the project. We have 13 labs, and we are keep working in this process of raising funds, and we are trying to do now in the US. And I think, as I mentioned in the beginning, I think we could also not only find the cure of this disease, which would be wonderful, but we hope to inspire other people to do the same, because the world needs more philanthropy. There are lots of money just there in the bank, and people need to do more philanthropy. Brazil does not have a big tradition in philanthropy, so we had a hard time at the beginning, but we were able to succeed, and we will keep going.
Can I add something to what Fernando just said?
Sure.
We do have the culture of giving back, but in Brazil, people do charity. People do not do philanthropy. So people in Brazil, they are willing to help. For example, when there is a disaster, right? We had recently we had floods here, and help came from all over the country, right? But this is to solve because Brazilians are very short-sighted. We are a short-sighted society, and so Brazilians have a great heart, right? They want to help, right? But they do it. It's completely different what we see in the US. Right? Philanthropy is doing what Fernando is doing, right? Is doing life-changing initiatives. Is building new infrastructure. Is looking long term. So there is a need to change the mentality in Brazil, right? So this would be my comment.
And I guess, do you think that, you know, if people start, you know, people who are as motivated and dedicated as Fernando, if more of those people appeared with initiatives that are much shorter term than I guess people are used to, and much more focused. I mean, one of the things that I'm not sure that Fernando really made it, but like the fact that in the contributions, I understand that like nothing goes to overheads. I mean, everything goes directly to like the research and to the people that need it. And I'm not sure if you want to make a comment in terms of that if that makes a big difference as well, because most charities, they have like a, you know, they have an administrative structure, and that takes up, let's say, 20% or 30% of everything that's contributed. I don't know if you want to comment on that.
Yeah, this is the usual model in Brazil, right? The charities here, big overhead, poor governance. So that is why I mentioned in the NBI case, right? Good governance, good leadership, right? Focus, lean structure. So yeah, I see that more people should be supporting this.
Exactly. I mean, it's a very, as you say, very lean, very focused, very little over. You know, the money, all the contributions go straight to the people that need it to look for the cures. That's a big difference. And so maybe the Ambassador Otávio, maybe if you have any final comments. Not sure if he's still with us. Oh, yeah.
Yes, I'm here. I'm here. No, I think that the final comment is that we are we have the pleasure of seeing this initiative that comes from a peripheral state in a peripheral country, which is Rio Grande do Sul, Porto Alegre. We are. I am from Porto Alegre. Mr. Ling is from Porto Alegre. Mr. Goldstein. Everybody from Porto Alegre. Some are supporters of Internacional, like me. Others are supporters of Grêmio, like Fernando. But we are giving humanity this opportunity of changing the life of 30,000 kids a year, and you should multiply that by the number of the relatives of those kids. So we are talking about the life of, I don't know, 100,000 people a year. And just because some gauchos came and had a good idea and a new way of see life and the way we place ourselves in the life of the others. And I will say in Portuguese, we have an anthem from our state, this peripheral state, which says, levemos nossas façanhas a toda a terra. It means more or less that let's bring our deeds to all the world. And this is exactly what Fernando is doing, what Mr. Ling is doing. And I had a humble and small participation on the support to the initiative in Washington. And I'd like also to congratulate Mr. Parker for the 40 years work. It's not just the medulla-blastoma initiative which is changing lives. His work for the last 40 years are amazing.
Yeah,
that's it. And thank you for the American Chamber for the opportunity and the invitation to be here with you.
Thank you very much.
May I small comment?
Yeah, sure.
Oh, I think all the credits here has to go to Dr. Parker. Dr. Parker is the guy. So he assembled the team, the consortium, and everything. So all the credits should go to him.
Yeah, and I guess with that, I'm not sure if Dr. Parker is still with us. If he's got some final comments in terms of the.
Yeah, I'm going to deflect that. Thank you for everyone for their comments. Just to thank you to everyone gathered here. The ambassador, the Chamber of Commerce, Mr. Ling, and of course, Fernando. Thank you all for your time. And just a promise that we will do everything we can to try to get there. This is a group effort, just not my effort. But thank you for the kind comments. And let's proceed on and conquer this stuff, okay?
That's fantastic. And I guess with that, we've come to the end here of our event. So thank you very much, everyone for participating. And as it was recorded, so it'll be available for others in the future. Thank you very much for everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye. Bye.